a tour of South America, learning more about Buddhism, and the sights and sounds of Vietnam coming up next. Hello and welcome to Mission 360. I'm Gary Krause. We have a terrific program for you today, coming to you from Ho Chi Minh City in South Vietnam. Of course, this used to be called Saigon, and it played a pivotal role as the capital of South Vietnam during the Vietnam War. It's built along the Saigon River near the Mekong Delta, and today many thousands of tourists come to visit this very charming city. On today's program, we'll be learning more about mission in Vietnam, but first up, we're going to go to South America. South America, of course, is a very diverse territory, and we have more than 2 million members in that area, and it is a division that is very focused on church planting and on urban mission. Many centers of influence are starting throughout South America. So let's travel there now.
Salvador is known throughout Brazil for having a vibrant, unique culture. It boasts the fourth largest population in Brazil, with almost 3 million people. The Adventist Church has experienced significant growth here, with churches scattered throughout Salvador. Despite the strong Adventist presence, there are still unentered areas of the city. Global Mission is working to identify areas with no Adventist presence and establish new congregations there. Josenildo's neighborhood is one of these unentered areas. He was known as a drunk nuisance whose bad habits disrupted his family life and the whole community. Arivaldo, an Adventist, lived nearby and ran into Josenildo often on his way to work. Arivaldo knew he was looking for work, so he offered him a construction job, building churches. It didn't take long for the two of them to become friends. Arivaldo treated him with respect, which made Josenildo wonder why he was always so kind. Over time, Arivaldo asked if he was interested in Bible studies, and the two began reading the Bible together.
Before I met Jesus, I didn't have happiness. When I came to know Jesus, my life was transformed. And today, for God's glory, I am happy. My family also was transformed.
Josenildo was baptized and changed for the better. Even his neighbors took notice of his transformation. When the usual loud music from his home stopped one day, everyone wondered if he was okay. When they checked on him, they saw that Josenildo was a changed man. He spoke kindly to them and treated them respectfully, and they wanted to know what inspired these changes in his life. Josenildo used this opportunity to minister to his neighbors. Every Friday night, they gather in his living room to talk about their week. They bring their concerns, requests, and praises here. Josenildo points them to the Bible, showing them a Creator who cares deeply about them. There's even something for the children, as Josenildo's daughter leads an activity in the hallway. This group has grown close, and as a result, 10 people have already been baptized this past year, and more are studying for baptism. Small groups like this one are the core of church planting in Salvador. Small groups develop into congregations, and these congregations divide into more small groups that spread throughout the city. Nearly 5 years ago, the church leadership in Salvador State had an ambitious goal of building 1,000 churches in 5 years. They reached their goal, and the final church is being built where a new congregation will worship soon. The goal of building 1,000 churches across the state isn't just for the purpose of having new buildings. The church buildings represent ever-growing congregations of believers who, like Josenildo, have been changed by Jesus.
Jesus é bom.
Jesus is good. Jesus transforms. Just as He transformed my life, He can transform anyone's life.
No matter the struggles someone may face, Jesus has the power to transform their life. And more lives are impacted as churches are planted throughout the world. Thank you for helping us change lives by supporting church planting through Global Mission.
I'm happy today that my guest is Mrs. Phung, who is working here for the Adventist Church in Vietnam. Thank you for joining us. What do you do here for the church?
At the moment, I'm the publishing and health director of the mission. I'm also taking care of the feeding program.
Okay, describe what we see happening here.
So we have done this feeding program for 10 years. Every Thursday, we have some volunteer outside and from the church member. We will come at 7 in the morning to cook 200 serving of food, and we will give away to the people who live around this area.
Very nice. So how many do you normally have? Is this the normal number of people you have?
200 people every week.
Yeah. So where do they come from? They just live in this area here?
I think like 70% live around here, and then 30% very far.
Okay. So describe what happens. You start with prayer.
So we always start with a prayer because that's the message we want them to know. We want to know, let them know a little bit about God, our church, our religion. So after the prayer, then we will give them the food. So the food always have rice, some vegetable, and a soup, and for sure that it's the vegetarian.
Yeah, very, very nice. And obviously the people appreciate it very much.
All of them are very like it, and even some of them say that they have tried the charity food in many places in Ho Chi Minh City, but our food is the best.
That's good. Wonderful. So you also care for the health ministry here in Vietnam?
Yes.
What sorts of things do you do?
We have a very limited about the health ministry. We have no SDA doctor, nurses in the church. So no SDA medical doctor. So wherever we want to do a health program, I have to ask the doctor from Penang Adventist Hospital or from the US to come to help me. And that's because of that. Every year we can do like 2 or 3 health programs.
Yeah, very good. And you also care for the literature ministry. Tell me about that.
In fact, most of my ministry is most of my time is for the literature evangelist.
Yes.
I started to work for the publishing 10 years ago. So last year we celebrated the 10th anniversary of the publishing work in Vietnam. We started very humble with only 2 books, 2 religious books and 7 literature evangelists. But until now, we have 27 titles and 60 literature evangelists around Vietnam. So a strong team.
People.
Yeah.
Wow. Now, are most of them working in cities? Where do they work?
Half of them work in the city and half of them are tribal. They working on the mountain, in the village.
Okay. So what sorts of books do they sell?
At the moment, we have variety of books. So they are selling health books, children books, and religious books.
Can you tell me a story of someone whose life has been touched through the literature ministry?
So I want to share with you a story. I have a literature evangelist. He is tribal working in Lâm Đồng province. And recently he shared a story with me. Last year he went to a village of other denomination and he's selling to a customer a health book. So 3 months after that, the customer contact him and said that, please come up. I want to know more about you and your church. So my literature evangelist come back to that village and then get to know that customer and also give Bible study to him and give him the book Great Controversy. And so after a few weeks, the customer called my literature evangelist again and said that we find out the truth about the Sabbath day. So let's give us more Bible study. We want to learn from you. So he just following, giving Bible study to his customer until December last year, 2017. The customer with another 2 friends was converted and became Seventh-day Adventist.
Oh, wonderful. So these 60 literature evangelists, are they working full time?
We have only 24 full-time and the rest are part-time.
Now, you were telling me earlier that your family have been Seventh-day Adventists back a few generations. Tell me.
Yeah. I was born in a family which has 4 generations in Seventh-day Adventists. For my parents, they are one of the church pioneers. My grandfather was a pastor. My mom is the mission treasurer right now, and me and my husband.
Okay, that's wonderful. Now, what does your husband do?
He is a ministerial secretary of the mission right now.
Okay. So, when we look at the church that we have here in Vietnam, is it growing?
Yeah, it's growing. So in the past we have only 5 churches. Now we have 26 churches. And the number is from 7,000 now is 9,000.
Wonderful. So there is a focus on church planting?
Yes. And we also do more evangelistic meeting than before. Every year we have a guest speaker from the U.S. Elder Ted Wilson, he came in 2014. Yes. And then Pastor Dan Smith from California, he came for 2-week evangelism. And then we have so many pastors from the Union, Singapore, came to the evangelist meeting every year.
That's great. Now I understand next week a new center of influence will be opened. Tell me about that.
Yeah, we are very excited about the opening ceremony of the COI in Hanoi. We have prayed for that so long. And this is the first time we have a big building in the capital of Vietnam. So before we only have a small group of SDA in the capital with only 30 members. So we hope that with the COI we can have more church and then we can create a big impact in the capital of my country.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for sharing with me today. And viewers at home, here we are in Vietnam in the heart of the 1040 window. Tremendous challenges but also wonderful opportunities. And next week, a new urban center of influence being opened right there in the capital of Hanoi. It is a landmark thing, and hopefully on future programs we'll be able to share with you some of the work of that center of influence. We'll be right back after this break. Welcome back to Ho Chi Minh City. This city, formerly known as Saigon, was of course very famous for the pivotal role it played during the Vietnam War. Today, lots of tourists come here and they look at sites such as this Notre Dame Cathedral, many neo-colonial French architecture examples all around the city. And this is notable because all the materials were imported from the country of France. Well, next up we visit with Greg and Amy Whitsett in Chiang Mai, Thailand.
So I have enjoyed living and working in Asia for the last 16 years. I'm the director of the Global Mission Center for East Asian Religions. And when I first came to Asia to share my testimony and share the good news with my friends, Buddhists, I didn't know how to begin. And I was teaching in a college. One of my students was a Buddhist monk, and as it became time for, December, Christmas time, he asked me, he said, "So tell me, what is Christmas all about?" And I thought, wow, what an opportunity. Here's someone who wants to know about my religion. So I didn't know where to begin. I thought, well, they don't understand why we needed a savior. So I decided I should just do a quick overview, starting with creation and the fall and the promise that a Messiah would come, and then talk about his birth. And then I realized, well, if I just stop with his birth, he doesn't understand what had happened next. So then I talked about how Jesus went about healing people in his teachings, and then he was crucified on the cross and he died for us. He rose from the dead and he went back to heaven, and he's coming back soon. And you know what his response was? He was actually giggling out of embarrassment of what I had just unloaded on him. And it didn't really make sense to him. So I began to realize early on that doesn't make sense what I share with my Buddhist friends. And so what do? I was kind of at a quandary. So my wife and I would just like to take a couple of minutes and talk to you about these challenges that we face.
Something that we've discovered is that you can actually use the analogy of sports to understand the differences between the Buddhist worldview and a Christian worldview. The Christian worldview is very similar to soccer or football. With soccer or football, you have two teams who are competing against each other physically actually fighting each other for the ball, for control. And you know, you've got to get your ball into the net on the other side of the field. You've got people who are trying to stop you, trying to steal the ball from you. You have people who can help you. Your coach is there to help you and to support you and to give you some guidance and some direction. And you have your whole team. You work together as a team to move your ball into your net. Another key importance with this analogy is that with soccer or football, you have a very limited time frame. You're only on the field for about 90 minutes, 45 minutes for each half. And whoever gets the most points at the end of that 90 minutes wins. Also, it's interesting to note that you can be on the bench. You don't actually have to touch the ball once during the game and you can still win.
That's true, my team wins.
Right, what's important is that
win.
you're on a team, and we see this in Christianity. There's a big, big battle between God, between Satan. We have to choose a side, and there's a limited time frame. We understand as Seventh-day Adventist Christians that Jesus is coming, he's coming very soon, which gives us a great amount of a sense of urgency. Urgency that time is limited. We've really got to work hard. We've got to learn how to work as a team. We've got to do our best using the skills that each individual has to play the game of soccer or golf, or in this case, Christianity.
And the other limit on time, of course, is that we only have one life, right?
Right,
And we have to choose in this life whom we will serve.
That's right.
So that's the Christian perspective, but what about the Buddhist perspective and all of our Asian friends in this part of the world? Well, their perspective is actually a little bit more like golf. Now with golf, everyone has their own ball. You don't hit each other's ball. There's no teams. You know, you don't see team hats, you know, and jerseys. No, it's each individual is for himself. He must win at his own way. And actually, golf is much more of a mental game in the sense that it's a riddle. How are you going to best play the game? You have different clubs that you can use, and they all must be used, you know, for different purposes. You have drivers, and I don't know, I don't play golf, but you have all irons, and the weather conditions even affects your game, how fast the greens are playing and this type of thing. And so how's this like Buddhism? Well, in Buddhism, there's not really any opponent who's out to get you, to defeat you. You're your own worst enemy, and the focus is on self-improvement. Right? And then you actually have 18 holes. You know, a lot of people say it's kind of expensive to play the game of golf. Actually, if you play really badly, you can play all day until they close at night, because, you know, it takes you so long to get that ball into the cup. So, and I guess that's kind of like how life could be in the Buddhist mindset, is that depending on how well you play,
Not very skilled.
Yeah, it could take you longer. Also, a lot of Asians, a lot of Buddhists have an understanding of the spirits. And so who are they? Are they against us? Well, in Christianity, we would say the spirits are fallen angels who are against us, trying to defeat us. But actually, the way Buddhists would see spirits is very different. They would see it kind of like the wild animals in the forest. Yes, you can get hurt by them. They could attack you. They might see you as a meal. But the animals in the forest are just doing what comes naturally. And the same with spirits. In fact, the spirits could help you as much as hurt you. Like a sand trap on the golf green. You know, you have a sand trap. It's not running around trying to catch your ball. The pond isn't moving around trying to block your shot. No, it's there. And you have to deal with these realities. And so this is exactly like Buddhism. We have to work with these environments, and that it's just about improving ourselves. So you see the difference. When we talk about Christianity, we talk about these things, it is so different from what the Buddhist has in mind about what it works. So oftentimes what we do is we go to Buddhists and we start talking about football, soccer, and giving them all the rules and how that's going to help them have a better game, and they'll sit there and scratch their head and say, well, yeah, I guess you play on grass, we play on grass.
You have a ball and we have a ball.
Yeah, we both have balls, and
you run and get exercise and we run and get exercise.
So it's all the same, it's all good. And in that level, yes, it's true, all religions do teach morals, but the rules of the game and the purpose is totally different. And so what we need to do is take time to listen, take time to observe, and take time to learn so that we can share the gospel in the right way.
So how can you begin? Well, there's a couple things you can do. If you have Buddhist friends or neighbors, I encourage you, take time to get to know them. Just be a friend. earn their trust, win their confidence, and eventually you'll be able to start sharing your own testimonies with them about how God is changing you. The second thing that you can do is go to our website, cear.adventistmission.org, and there you will find some resources to help you to understand Buddhism and to understand better how you can share your relationship with Jesus with your Buddhist friends. God bless you.
If you're enjoying today's program, I invite you to follow us on Facebook or Instagram. There you'll find various videos posted about mission around the world. Just go to Instagram, Facebook, and search for Mission 360 TV, and there you'll find us, and just click like or follow. Next up, we travel back to South America.
With Bibles in hand, this church planting duo began exploring their new community, introducing themselves to neighbors, and hoping to connect with them. They knew sharing the Adventist message in a city like Lima could be challenging. With a population of almost 10 million people, Peru's capital is one of South America's largest and busiest cities. As in many other urban areas, people are often busy, and interest in religion is fading. There was no Seventh-day Adventist congregation in this part of the city until a local Adventist family took the initiative to start one. First, they began meeting for worship in their home and invited their neighbors to join them. Then they invited theology students from the Adventist University in Lima to come preach in the streets. This event stirred up a lot of interest in the community. As the family spoke more and more with their neighbors, they realized there were many needs. They recruited other Adventists in Lima and arranged a health expo for the community. People appreciated the compassion and genuine care they encountered. Soon after the first health expo, Dina and Kataring were called to serve full-time through the 1000 missionary movement, an initiative started and supported by several of the Adventist Church's world divisions. When Dina and Kataring first knocked on Abigail's door, they asked if they could pray with her. Abigail gladly accepted their invitation, and the girls returned each day for prayer. After a few doorway prayers, Abigail invited them inside, where Dina and Kataring offered her Bible studies. With each visit, the girls noticed how Abigail struggled to maintain her home. She was having a difficult pregnancy at the time and had another child to care for. She often didn't feel well enough to keep up with household chores. Dina and Kataring eagerly began to help. They assisted Abigail by cleaning, cooking, and taking her child to school. Adventist church members in Lima also gathered food to give to the family. Their acts of kindness showed Abigail the love of Jesus. It's been several months, and Abigail still looks forward to the weekly Bible studies. She's just one of 40 community members whom Dina and Kataring visit regularly. Through Christ's method, Dina and Kataring have helped plant a new church in this neighborhood where about 30 people worship each Sabbath. Please pray for church planters like Dina and Kataring, who are on the front lines of mission. Pray for strength and compassion as they continue to reach others for Christ. Thank you for supporting Adventist Mission.
Well, that's about it for today's program, and I hope that you've been challenged and inspired by our 360-degree view of mission around the world, and especially here in Vietnam, in the heart of the 1040 window, where 60% of the world's population live in this region, and most of the people living here have not even heard the name of Jesus. And I want to thank you so much for being part of our Adventist Mission team. Thank you for taking the time with your families to pray for mission, to pray for missionaries, to pray for global mission pioneers, church planters, to pray for the cities where most of the world's population now live. Before we go today, I want to thank you so much for your continuing support through your mission offerings and your donations to Global Mission. Thank you for your personal involvement. And before we go, let's listen to this mission music video. Take the opportunity as it plays to think about mission, to pray about your personal involvement. For Adventist Mission, I'm Gary Krause, and I hope that you can join me next time right here on Mission 360.